Okay, welcome back to the shop. It's been a little while. I built a jig. It's time for some more progress on the double O now. So this little jig here I built, you saw that video series. We've got one final thing I want to do is I want to make one more test cut in scrap wood so that I make sure I get this aligned exactly right before I do it for the real thing. And part of that is making sure I've got the angle right. So this guitar, as you saw, or you might have seen, I put out sort of an SOS a while back because I had a small problem on this guitar where I had a dent here on top of the heel block, or the neck block, and it, instead of, it was from when I clamped it, I didn't get the angle on the neck block perfect to fit with the curve of the neck, or the curve of the body the way it was supposed to. And so I sanded it instead of steaming it or coming up with some other way. So what happened was, this little arm, just so that, and you've seen the video, or you may have seen the video. If you've seen the videos for this jig, you know what this arm is telegraphing the surface that the fretboard rests against. So it's just extending that line. It's like putting a straight edge on the face of the fretboard, or on the face of the neck where the fretboard will go. So this telegraphs that angle that we've got so that you can get this angle dialed in just right. So the body sits right here, and if things go well, when you slide the body up against the bar and you've got your angle right, it'll be flush down here all the way up and stick out just the right amount over where the saddle will be at the center line. It'll have a specific gap, and that gap is what we're trying to measure so that we make sure we get our angle right. Unfortunately for this particular guitar, for this exact specific guitar, my sanding of that dent away and messing up the angle here means I've got a pretty substantial gap down here. It's actually bigger than at the bridge height. This gap is 3/32. It's a heavy 3/32. It's just under an eighth. Yeah, it's just under an eighth. So if we go this route, at the worst of it, it's, I can't get a good measure, but it's bad. It's pretty much basically an eighth down here. So I sent out an impromptu video earlier in a week, throughout the mid-cycle of my video series, and asked for advice, and I got, for the most part, I think it's okay to shim. Got some advice not to shim it, but I can't match this angle. If I match the angle that's here, that puts the bridge height, so the strings that come off the neck are going to be up 9/16. It's going to be tons. So the bridge height on this is supposed to be 9 millimeters. If I match this height, we would be adding 7 millimeters to that. So we're in the 16 millimeter range. That's a tall gap over here, and I didn't want to deal with that. That didn't seem like a good idea. I have seen arch tops with a shim under the fretboard right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to cut my angle to the angle that gets me the right distance here, with the fretboards, or with the neck sticking up a little bit, because I've got extra room there. I can fudge. This thing is longer than it needs to be, and so by having this end stick up proud of the body just a little bit, I can still get a good match down here. So that's what I've decided to do, and I want to do one more test cut before I actually go for that and do it. So that's what we're setting up now. Is I've got an angle here. So if this body were set up right and there wasn't a gap here, and I set the angle to the right angle, the plans call for a 1/16 of an inch gap. I'm going to go just a tiny bit heavier than that. We're at, oh, it's not even 3/64, or sorry, it's not even 3/32. It's like 7/64, or it's 5/64. It's not much. It's a little over. It's a little proud of a 1/16, but that's fine. I'm just going to reduce how thick this shim has to be. And I can tolerate a little bit of gap there, and I'd rather be on the tall side a little, so that if it's too high, I have room to take things down. So that's kind of what my plan is here. I've got my angle set. I'm going to put the body aside one more time for just a little bit longer here. And then I'm going to set up this fretboard, or this test neck. That's not going to do me any good. That's not going to do it any good. It doesn't matter what I'm doing here. So I'm going to take this test scrap, and I've marked, this time I'm going to do some more attempts at precision on this. I've marked center lines on this, and I'll mark a center line on where the dovetail will go. And so I get things adjusted in a way that is accurate, or not necessarily, that is reflective of the reality that I'm going to be using on the real parts. So this block is now 3 1/4, which is exactly the thickness of the body. So this is already set. Then I can put some lines in here where my binding is. And so I know when I'm basically doing a dry run, and I'm just creating the conditions of the real parts so that I can cut things where they're supposed to go. So that's what we're doing here. So I've got my angle is set enough to not interfere with the tab of the template here. I've got a center line marked on it. I'll mark a center line where the dovetail goes, and we'll just make a cut and make sure everything is exactly the way I want it to be. I've got room for one more, I think, maybe. Yeah, I've got barely room for one more test cut if I screw this up, but I think it's going to be fine. Pretty sure. Pretty sure we're okay here. So I'm going to get this mounted up, and then I'll bring you back here. All right, I've cut off that bit. So now we've got a short little bit of a body blank, or a body analog here. I've just got my mark for my binding. We'll just slide this into the vise, and I'm going to get it kind of close to tight first, and then we'll go towards, I want to make this center line align with that center line. So I'm going to, there we go, that's pretty good. So now I've got the center lines lined up. The next thing I can do is make sure I'm flush all the way around here. We are not. Let's hang on to it here. There we go. I'm making sure that the top surface is flush with the surface of the jig so that it's parallel, flat with the top. And that's it for that. I think we can set up now to get the router configured here. Oh, actually no, we're going to do the stopping point here. So let me do that now. We're going to loosen this screw, loosen this screw. I'm going to set this square. Basically, actually we're going to do it like this. And tighten my square down. Now I can move this forward to see where my back of this wall stops. If I put it right on where my binding is, that means the dovetail will stop an 1/8 inch before that, because or a 16th, sorry, the dovetail will stop, well, yeah, it depends on where the top of the dovetail, but the bottom of the dovetail being a 1/2 inch cutter, and a 5/8 collet will put it a 1/16 of an inch from this binding, and I think I'd like to go even more than that. I think I'm going to go, because I have to raise things up a little bit anyways, let's go, I'm going to go with right about there, and I'll bring you around so you can see just where I've decided to stop this dovetail slot. Alright, you can see there, I've got my square up against the wall of the template, that the horizontal line running long ways is the binding line. The line running this way is the center line. And the edge, as you can see with my square, pushes about, it's about 3/16 past the line. So add a 1/16 to that, and that means we'll basically stop the dovetail about a 1/4 inch from the binding. That's going to be a more than strong enough dovetail. And it also saves me a little bit of risk on making sure I get things aligned, and I can still have the face of the neck stick proud of the body, so I can shim underneath the fretboard there. So that is that setting. And I'm going to move this so that I'm going to cut, the idea is I'm going to cut a fat dovetail first, because I don't want any risk of making the dovetail too narrow. That's a big concern for me. I just don't want that skinny. I don't want it too small. And it may end up being too small. We'll see. So there's that, and we'll double check one more time. Yeah, we're clearing, so that's good. I'm ready to cut, and we're just going to give this a go. I've got plenty of extra stock. If I have to make more tests, we're going to do this test as many times as it takes for me to be confident that it's not going to mess up my real stuff. So let me get set up for cutting. I'll be right back. Okay, so now I've got my roughing bit in there, my 1/4 inch straight bit. I've still got the template. I'll keep the template on the entire time. And my high-tech 15 millimeter gauge block here that we'll use. So the first step is bottom it out onto the end grain of the neck. We're stopping on the bottom of the neck. Oh, we're too far though. Yeah, that'll work. We're just scratching the surface there. Okay. Then I'm going to come up just a teensy bit here in just a second, but here we go. Let's take our spacer block, drop it down onto the post there, and then I'm going to pull it out here, and I'm going to drop it a little because I want the neck tenon to be just a tiny bit shy of the final depth. I want it to not bottom out on the dovetail. So that's that piece. Now we are set. We can start rough cutting this stock, and then when this stuff is done being rough cut, I'll rough cut out the dovetail. So we'll start cutting now. Okay, so there she is after the straight bit rough cut. So you can see I'm far enough forward that I didn't even reach the end of the neck. So that's good actually, because the dovetail will catch that. But it's keeping me from, it's as wide as I can make it is what I'm after. I'm making it as big as possible this time. So now we'll switch over and do the dovetail one. I'll switch over and do the dovetail socket. Alright, so now we're ready to rough the socket dovetail of the dovetail. Same process. We drop all the way down. At first I know I'm going to need to move this up out of the way because I've got to go deeper on this side. Grab my spacer, wherever I put it. There it is. Take our high-tech measuring device here. Bottom out again. Bottom out on the wood. And then we'll drop our high-tech spacer there as our depth stop as 15 millimeters. Okay, I'm going to just set it in here. Yep, we're shy of 15 millimeters there for sure, and that'll be pretty good. This is the one I can do multiple passes on. The dovetail I have to do in one. But so now we'll just start cutting away for this. Alright, there we go. The dovetail slot is now roughed out. So I still got the neck over here, and now all I got to do is change out that cutter to the dovetail bit, and we can make the final passes on both of these. We'll do the same sort of thing. You drop it as you're roughing out. You just bottom out on the stock itself, on the bottom, and you bottom the dovetail bit out on this one, and we're ready to go. So I'm just going to make this pass with the dovetail bit real quick. I messed up a little bit. It's not a big deal, but I did mess up a little bit. I should have done the pocket first and then the neck, because I'm going to be recutting the neck, I'm sure, because I made the dovetail wider. So now I have to reset my depth to what I did for the neck, and I shouldn't do that. I should just leave it at one setting. Ideally, it stays at the one setting. So, alright, that's it. I've got it reset. So now we can take these apart and have a see at how well. So the neck one we're done with, or the body one we're done with. So that is my dovetail for the body. That's actually really nice looking. I got to watch out for tear out on this. I may put some masking tape around this area to keep that fiber supported a bit more better. So we'll just pop off our, come on, drop stuff on the floor. Now we can just take our neck bit here and see if we are big enough here. We are way bigger than we should be there, which is good. It means we're going to bottom out pretty early. Yep, bottoming out way early. That's good. So, all right, now we're ready to do one more dovetail cut. That should thin this dovetail a bit further and get it to seat better here. So I'll set up for that here in just a sec. Welcome back to the shop. Okay, so the last time I left you, it's been a couple of days. I took a few days off. The last time I left you, I had cut this test block, and I thought that I may have needed to make a new template for this because it's back as far as I can get it, which makes this as narrow as I can get it. But it turns out, I went and looked at a bunch of YouTube videos, watched a bunch of people setting dovetail necks, and Blues Creek Guitar was one of those series that showed this, and his starting point is quite proud like this, and he went through the entire process. And now that I've done enough research, I feel like I'm good with what the templates I've got do. So the way this, as I understand it, the way you do the dovetail for a body joint is you worry about, there's so many things to worry about. There's your break angle for the neck. How far does it tilt, right? So that you get your string height down at the bridge. There's also center. So if you're playing your guitar, you want to make sure that it's tilted this way correctly, not just front to back, but up and down. And then there's twist. And I think the Blues Creek Guitar stuff, the series that he did, there's a 5-part series that he did, and then an addendum. The addendum is much more concise. I think run with that. It's a longer video, but he touches on some pieces that got asked about in the previous series, and it's much more helpful, I think. But I watched them both, so feel free, watch them both. But the big thing that he came down with was you don't want it to start flush. You don't want, this cut does not make the final position of the neck. You have to set the neck, which makes perfect sense now that I think about it. So what he says is he called it ACE, angle being the neck angle, and center line being, tilt of the neck, and then elevation. He says do them in that order. Worry about getting the neck angle first, because that's the most critical. Then worry about maintaining and getting your center line back, and then you can worry about elevation. While you're working on angle and center line, you don't touch the tenon at all. You work always on these shoulder faces. You never touch the cheeks. You ignore them, in fact. They don't exist as far as you're concerned. You adjust these two pieces and the heel area here until you've got perfectly good joint and it's tilted correctly and it's centered properly. Then he says you can drop the elevation by adjusting the tenon, which makes perfect sense. After you've done the tenon, you may have to do some minor, what they call scribe sanding or cope sanding. So that's basically, after I watched all those videos, and I watched many videos, because that's what I do, I've decided my templates are fine for what I'm doing. They'll leave me an oversized tenon, which is exactly what I want. I want oversized. And that will mean then I can cut for real once I find the courage, because I'm still a bit of a chicken. But we're probably going to be, we're going to cut this. The next step is going to be to cut the joint for this. So then, regarding my neck angle, oh, I left everything in the house. Okay. Regarding the neck angle problem, I'm going to shim it. I'm going to shim under the fretboard because it's going to be fine. It's under the 14th fret and beyond, and it's going to be a thin shim. I'll probably do either rosewood or mahogany. Probably rosewood because that's what I've got, but we'll see. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut us a dovetail in the actual neck and body today, right now. So bring you back in just a second. All right, I think we are set. So first, we've got the neck blank, center's marked. This is this is a one-shot deal, and I'm kind of a chicken right now, but it's going to get done. We're going to do this. So there we go. It's just enough friction. Keep it in place. So let's set this into place, and I think, yeah, that's actually covered right there. We're going to take a real quick look at center, make sure we're there. Get this other clamp on there first. Okay. Double check we're not raising the template up. Now those holes you see down there, those two holes, I should see them, yeah, everything looks aligned. So, okay, the neck is in place and center lines are attempted. Now we can take the body and align its center lines with the template here, which are actually almost impossible to see, but I can sort of see them. I'm just eyeballing it here for the moment, and the main concern is that we are flat up on the bottom of the template, or the bottom of the jig. Yeah, we are. And as Robert O'Brien says, crank it down till you hear a crack, then back it off a quarter turn. We're not quite on center. No, we're not quite there yet. We have to come that way some. So my eyeballing was not spot on. Oof. No, we're definitely not on center. Still think we're a bit off. No, that's good. Okay. Just making sure that we've got our center line. Make sure we're pressed up nicely here. Looks like we are. Okay. There is absolutely no getting out of this at this point. We're going to be cutting this dang dovetail. Alright. There's no getting around it. It's time. Cinch it down good. Cinch you down good. You're good. You're done. You're tight. Everything's good. There's no... I'm like, okay, what else can I adjust? Alright. I don't have the power on just yet. It's time. I'm going to do the neck first. Yeah, I'm going to do the neck first, and then I'll do that one. Kinda chicken, kinda chicken. Yeah, there's, alright, I'm gonna put on the safety gear. It's time to do this. Okay, the roughing went all right. My nerves are still a little frazzled, but the roughing looked like it went okay. The neck tenon is a tiny bit shorter than the socket is, so that's good. It's about a 1/16 or so shorter, which is good. No tear out really on the rough cut. We're ready to do the stuff for real. Do the for real cut now. I am. Oh yeah, that's really too close. Okay, so I want to make sure I don't run into my hinge, so I may still cut a new template that has these moved in a bit, about 1/4 of an inch, just so that I don't have that risk. But we're going to do the neck first. Sorry, we're going to do the pocket first. We're going to do the body first. And then we'll do the neck. Oh, it's coming along now. Yee. All right, here we go. Okay, well, it went. I have no visible, I can't see any tear out. Not that it would really matter too much, that would get covered. So we'll pull the neck off first. And see. Alright, we have ourselves a dovetail on the neck side. It could be deeper, according to my lines, though it might be fine too. We'll find out here in just a bit. I actually have very little qualm with moving the nut forward if I had to. It's not a big deal. Yeah, it's about, I don't know, 16th. It's less than a 16th forward, but I think it's fine. We can. That is shaping and fitting and setting extra. So okay, that dovetail is there. It's not really the reason I'm doing this. It's not really the final test, is it? Alright, the body. No visible tear out. Looks pretty well centered. And sawdust in the face. Of course. Alright, moment of truth, I suppose. Let's see how well this drives in. It is proud, as I would expect, but it is seating very well. Yeah. Hey, look at that. It's the closest to a guitar shape it's been so far, huh? That's pretty neat. Okay, so that is exactly where I wanted it to be, and lots and lots of extra room. Okay, so I'm gonna pan out here and get a better shot. But woo! So far so good. Alright, so now the actual factual situation is I have a dying neck. A dying neck all up on my dang guitar. And it's settable. There's plenty of room here for adjustment. And the way John, I can't remember his last name, but John from Blues Creek Guitars, the way he was recommending is you take that, I'm going to want a longer, maybe a longer straight edge, maybe. No, that's fine, that's plenty. And you look at how much distance off you've got. And so because of my body situation, that actually looks like a really close fit from an angle standpoint. It's going to be tough to get the angle set right because, well, because of this little dip that I've got here. I don't have this point for measurement. But if we dropped it a certain amount, so basically this is just going to tell us how far to drop it. I'm going to have to, so that's 1/4 of an inch here at the saddle height, which means this is pretty high up. I want it closer to a 16th. He said between a 16th and an 8th, which I can understand. I need to set this. But what I really want to look at, and this I will want a longer straight edge for, is I want to check my center line. Set it on my truss rod slot, which is where it should be, and check, and we are, it's very close. It's actually, hold on, let me make sure I'm right here. It's there, that looks about right. It is about 3/16 from the center. Actually no, the center of the book match is there. We're within an 1/8 of our center line already, so I'm actually calling that good. That neck angle is good. The other bit is to check for twist, and it does not appear that I have much twist. So I'm thinking if I can trust the neck angle, I may want to actually tip it back a little more because this is up rather high. Yeah, it's up a little high. So I'm going to want to drop this down. Right now it is 5/16 tall. I'd like to get it down to an 1/8. So I'd like to drop it a full 1/4 inch. And if I'm going to do that, then this being a 1/4 inch down here means I'm going to have to tip back a bit. Actually, we're 5/32. So, no, 9/30 seconds. Yeah, it's 30 seconds past a 1/4 right there. Does it seat nice? It feels, it's got a little back, so it's a little back, so you can see that it's loose down here. So I'm gonna fit with this a little bit, but overall I'm quite pleased. I'm gonna go watch John's videos again and double check what I do about that, because he had exactly that situation, and it makes me think it's not fully seating in quite full just yet. So I might take a little off of here, but overall, incredibly pleased with my results. Yeah, that's definitely longer than what I've got seated for. So I'm also going to chew some of this off because some of this is kind of in the way. This tail, the end of the tail, is pretty useless. So that's pretty damn good, though, I will say, where we landed here. I'm alright with what I've got. Now it's just going to be a matter of setting the neck, so that'll be the next task. But for now, we can get a feel for how this thing's going to set on my body. I like it. I like it a lot. I'll like it more when it's done. But yeah, cool. We got the damn neck set, basically. Or we're ready to set the neck. We've got the joint cut. All that hemming and hawing, all that whining. Hey, look, the center lines match up too. I have a center mark back here. That's good. That's really good. I'm really pleased. Yeah, this is going to be great. This is good. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go watch a couple more videos to get a real good familiarity with setting the neck, and then we'll bring you back. Yeah, I can see where it's pinching right there. He said use chalk. That's right. I have to get the chalk and see where things pinch too. Okay, so I will bring you back when I am ready to start setting this neck.